major story you find on the front page of the newspaper is FG budgets 1 trillion naira for empowerment, SUVs amid rising borrowing pressure. Okay, comes with a couple of riders. Allocation exceeds combined budgets of 7 key federal ministries. Only 70 of 2,579 empowerment projects have identified locations, as according to Tracker. And economists question spending priorities, demand accountability. Of course, that's the major story you find on the front page of The Punch. Opposition splits over single candidate to challenge Tinubu. The story is on page 32. And other stories you find, fake agency scandal, reps grill accountant general today. That story is on page 18 of the paper. Hoodlums invade Osun INEC office, cart away PVCs. That's a story on page 32. We're talking about invading the INEC office just a couple of weeks or days away from the election that's upcoming. Wow. And of course, there's a picture of the INEC chief by that headline. Obasanjo's role in Obi Kwankwaso ticket sparks row. Story on page 9. And APC drafts Omishore into 276-member Osun Governorship Campaign Council, page 32. And FG raises varsity workers' hazard allowance to 486,000 naira. That should be some good news, some heartwarming story for some people. Okay, and of course, just before I drop it, just to let you know that it's very well packed this morning. Which of the story will impress you or will be impressed on your spirit this morning, so to speak, to want to go along with us? Is it the major story, FG budgets 1 trillion naira for empowerment, SUVs amid rising borrowing pressure, or the one talking about hoodlums invading the Osun INEC office and cutting away PVCs? Of course, there is the story on the fake agency, which is refusing to go away, fake agency scandal. Reps grill accountant general. To all of these are on the front page of The Punch. Pick it up for better reading, better understanding. Better still, you can discuss with us.
The Vanguard will have the leading story. 2027 polls, Obi Kwankwaso's ticket, best chance of winning. This is coming from Babachia Lawal. Obi Kwankwaso's ticket has best chance of winning in 2027, ex-SGF. Ex-SGF not worth dignifying with response. This is coming from the APC. Tinubu lacks capacity to lead Nigeria. Peter Obi promises to unite and secure Nigeria. Well, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC yesterday dismissed the claims by former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachia Lawal, that a joint presidential candidate featuring NDC candidates of Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso would have a stronger chance of winning the 2027 presidential election than if both parties both politicians contested separately. Now, the APC, through their National Publicity Secretary, has dismissed some of those claims and says that the former SGF does not deserve a response. Obasanjo not working for Tinubu. This is coming from Osutokun. He is a former political advisor to ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo. Tinubu lacks capacity to lead Nigeria. That's also a statement that's credited to Peter Obi. On the front page, we see the picture of the Senate leadership during their visit to President Bola Tinubu. And we can see the Senate president there, Senate leader Okweyemi Bamidele Barau Jibrin, and other members of the Senate. Also on the front page, U.S. warns Nigerians with dual citizenship against traveling on foreign passport. Beside that headline, we have Atiku faults Tinubu's borrowing spree amid 7.98 trillion naira oil windfall. Terrorists abduct KB High Court judge. This is on page number 6 of the Vanguard. Is this just one of those stories, or is this a calculated attack? Terrorists abduct KB High Court judge. We have that story on the Vanguard. Hardship, low awareness threatens PPP. 92% of accounts dormant. Court orders army to reinstate and pay 70 soldiers. Soldiers should earn 250,000 naira monthly. This is coming from ex-defense spokesman Enenche. 2027 presidency, why we adopted Tinubu Adeleke Accord party leaders. And this is interesting, especially as we count down to the Osun governorship elections on the 15th of August. But that's all we have for you on the Vanguard this morning.
And from the Vanguard newspaper, we turn our attention to The Guardian this morning. The leading story on the front page of The Guardian newspaper says, overlapping budgets, how weak budgeting culture aids graft, poverty, ghost allocations. That story can be found on page 6 of The Guardian newspaper. And then, of course, still on the front page of The Guardian, electricity subsidy hits 1.78 trillion naira as gas debt nears 1 trillion naira. It's on page 3 of The Guardian. The picture of course, the Minister of Power, Tigbe, is right beside that headline. Daily Oye, 6 CBN intervention says Nigerians paying over 300% interest on digital loan apps. That is coming in from Daily Oye, who is seeking the presidential intervention. That is the chairman of the Alliance for Economic Research and Ethics. He has raised concern about the growing burden of high-interest digital loans in Nigeria, noting that poor and vulnerable Nigerians are being trapped in a cycle of debt by digital lending platform, charging more than 300% yearly. That story is on page 3 of The Guardian newspaper. Budget Office explains PFIPC's appropriation as BMO denies Buhari link to scandal. I mean, this investigation is getting wider and wider, and a lot of implications, a lot of offices being implicated and individuals being implicated. We keep tabs on it and bring you updates as they unfold. Still on the front page of The Guardian newspaper, Osun 2026, Accord Party raises alarm over arrest persecution. That's on page 7 of The Guardian. CPPE dismisses impacts of US 12.5% tariff on Nigeria. CPPE dismisses impacts of US 12.5% tariff on Nigeria. Is this just words on paper? We'll find out more on page 5 of The Guardian. Gunmen abduct Kebbi High Court judge, kill 3 in Benue. Page 9 of The Guardian. Military rescue 48 abductees in Zamfara as ISWAP finance chief surrenders in Borno. That's on page 9 as well of The Guardian. Voter registration closes amid concerns over access, election credibility. Page 6 of The Guardian. Olodo uprising. Sanlu, that's the governor of Lagos State, urges youth not to glorify ignorance, indifference. It's on page 7 of The Guardian newspaper. The pictures speak on the front page of The Guardian, is explaining how this overlapping budget is working. We have a bucket full of money and some dollars, some gold and all. 68.3 trillion naira spending plan, all in the bucket. And then we have 1.3 billion of ghost agencies taking that money. And then we have budget secrecy going into an opaque processes, a dark hole, resource leaking into a black hole via opaque processes. And then we have the budget of the year 2024, 2025, 2026 being bundled and tied together, yet to be implemented. The infinite loop of overlapping budgets, simultaneous implementation of these 3 years budget cycles, fiscal metric, actual expenditure of the year 2024, we have 34.49 trillion naira. This year projection, 68.32 trillion naira. Fiscal deficit, we have 3.58 trillion naira of 2024. When you come to this year, it's 23.85 trillion naira. And debt service to revenue, in the year 2024, it was 54%, and this year is is 70% estimated. Overweight spending. We have luxury palaces, religious sites taking 8.05 billion naira. Luxury palaces taking 22.15 billion. I mean, we have a scale and it's not balanced. Public welfare, underfunded investment. We have the medical department as well, or sector there, not balanced in all of this. The poverty trap, the national poverty rate has climbed from 39.1% to a staggering 50%, as a representation of 39.1%, moving upwards to 50%, 100 million Nigerians trapped in poverty. That is the national poverty rate at this point. 1.3 billion naira leaked to ghost agencies. Smuggled allocation to non-existent bodies like the PFIPC exemplifies systemic budget secrecy. Luxury palaces versus public welfare. 22.15 billion naira for royal palaces. Overweight, critical investment in roads and public health, misaligned priorities, and the poverty trap. All of these are being represented on the front page of The Guardian. It's helping you to understand how this is working. 3 years, budget not being implemented, and then we have 22.15 billion naira for palaces, and then 8.5 billion for religious sites. When we have the healthcare sector right there, we have bad roads, infrastructure that we haven't looked into. You can grab a copy of The Guardian and take a proper look at that. You understand the graphics even more better.